Well, this chapter takes things in a different direction, and we get to check in with Usopp and Franky, and really that's kind of a nice departure after the events at Dock 1.
One Piece, Chapter 350, The Warehouse Under the Bridge.
I just love it more and more with each passing moment and each passing page of each passing chapter, man. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, and I'm here to bring you another review on the awesome and the inspiring and just the awestruck goodness-filled tale of One Piece. Our last chapter saw us with really things just kind of falling out, man. The bottom falling out from our Straw Hats. I mean, Robin's gone, Usopp's gone, you know, Chopper's buried under a pile of rubble. Iceberg and Paulie are tied back to back and in his bedroom in a burning building. Nami's been tossed out the window, bloodied and bruised and broken. And Luffy and Zoro have been just dismantled and thrown out into the sea. That's how things left off. And really, things wind up picking up over here. We wind up seeing that weird sort of mannequin-looking thing, that Kokoro, the old hag or the drunk or whatever you want to call her, that Franky happened upon. And then, of course, she was originally seen as they were coming into Water 7, and when everybody was told about the Puffing Tom and everything like that. So I think that I got a feeling that Oda seems to put in characters that are recurring. I know that there's certain background characters, that are kind of developed as the series progresses, and then also in each arc, and there's many that are just kind of like background characters for that arc, and I think that's what Kokoro is, but I think there's a little more to her than meets the eye. I just, it just keeps popping up in weird sort of, just in weird circumstances. So she winds up seeing from a distance everything that's going on, and of course the burning and this and that of the mansion being on fire, the Galley Company mansion. And she's really just like, I can't say that I'm surprised. This is, Water 7's been kind of going to shit for a while now. Kind of like she felt that this was coming, And then we go and we see the fabulous foursome, the CP9 guys over here of Bluno and Khalifa, and then of course the two ex-dock workers, Kaku and Rob Lucci, and they're just, of course, doing their special move where they can just sort of do their moonwalk, and they're just like running on air. And as they do, and they're looking around trying to figure out what's going on, Bluno talks about how earlier, of course, he saw Franky in his bar, but then he went rushing out to look for the Straw Hat. They wind up coming upon, and it's neat how the littlest things wind up just coming back, these little details, 10, 15 chapters ago when Franky told his guys to walk around and say, hey, yeah, we got the long-nosed guy, come meet us at the so-and-so hidden warehouse under the bridge, or we're going to throw your long-nosed friend in the sea. They wind up coming upon these guys running around trying to spread this rumor, so to speak, so they can get the word out there, so they can hopefully draw the Straw Hats out of hiding. And they wind up coming upon them, and Lucci's like, what was that you said about him? He puts on this little, masquerade ball type mask, and they're just like, what are you talking about? You know who we are? You know who we are? And as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I know who you are. You're the dumb shits that get your asses kicked by everybody and anybody. The only one that they could beat so far was Usopp, and it still took 10 of them or 15 of them to do so. So I don't think much of them, but nonetheless, though, they kind of have that you know who I am type of attitude, and you know that shit's going to go down with them. So then it cuts away from them, and then it goes and it shows us the dock underneath there. First it goes and it shows us this northwestern corner dock, this and that. You kind of, and I'm kind of assuming that maybe outside in the water, that's where Zoro and Luffy were thrown, but they don't show either one of them. But then they actually show the Franky's secret warehouse in the next panel, under the bridge, right under this bridge or whatever. And Franky's in there, and you think maybe he's like torturing Usopp or whatever. No, he's literally crying, and so are his two little cohorts with their weird square afros. They're all like bawling, but not admitting that they're bawling because of Usopp's story, and he's explaining to them what happened, and obviously the falling out over the ship that him and Luffy wound up having, So it was heart-wrenching to go and of course to just see and live through that whole tale. And it isn't like he goes and retells it, but you can see that it's affected Franky. And that he's genuinely, like, moved by the fact that, and he's a goofy sort of dude, man. He just, like I said, he just sort of reminds me of somebody that would, like, talk like, kind of like an Elvis or something like that. Because he's just like, all right, that's so sad. I'm going to sing a song for you now. I'm going to call it so-and-so. And he just, like, busts out a guitar and he's going to start singing. Anyway, he has this conversation with Usopp. And he's talking with him. And ultimately, he's like, it winds up coming out that, of course, they're not shipmates anymore. They're not crewmates, and Usopp, makes that clear to him that they're not. And he's talking about, oh man, and this and that over the ship, and what about the 200 million that we stole from you and beat you? I bet you're pretty sore about that, And Usopp goes, you know what, whatever, man. Water under the bridge. There's not much we can do about it now. And then Franky goes, he's like, okay, because we spent that 200 million. And Usopp's like, I'll kill you. And then there's another point in the conversation where Franky's getting all worked up talking about what happened with their house getting, demolished, and then all their guys getting beat up, losing a bunch of his guys and everything else. And then he's like, I'll kill you. I'm going to kill you. So it's him and Usopp. It's these funny, volatile personalities. Anyway, he wind up going back to Lucci and the CP9 crew, and they've, of course, handily and easily defeated the Franky family. If Luffy and Zoro couldn't even really land a solid blow on him, you're sure as shit know that these half-wits aren't gonna do anything. These thug wannabe Franky family guys, Anyways, so they're all beaten up and bloodied and what have you, and one of them's calling out for help from his bro Franky, and they've gotten the information that they want apparently, or that's what we presume, and that's really about all you get from them over there. Is certainly that they're on to him and they know where they have to go now. And then we go back to Franky and Usopp, and the cool thing about their conversation is you think that they would just be enemies because of what happened, but it seems like they were both talking with level heads and actually having a little bit of communication. God forbid, you don't see a lot of it in this or really any other series. That winds up being one of the biggest. In a way, it's a bullshit way to move a plot forward. It's I know clearly that what you think that I'm doing is not the right way of things, but really there's more to this story than what you're seeing or what you're assuming, but I'm not going to tell you that right now. Sometimes in the heat of battle, I understand things happen first, actions happen, and then, obviously, once things calm down and cooler, calmer heads prevail, then you can have an exchange of words and whatnot. But ultimately, you see so much in this series and really every other one that I've read. And somebody told me years ago, they said, when you assume, the only thing you do is make an ass, A-S-S, out of you, I know obviously it's Y-O-U, but you, just follow with me here, and me, M-E. So if you take assume and break it down, it has the words ass, you, of course spelled like the Ebonics way, I guess you would say, the hooked on phonics worked for me, and then me. But that's all you do. You make an ass out of you and me. When you assume something without actually getting the information, without it, just like when people in the comments say, I'm so disappointed in you because it's not, a lot of times you're assuming that that's the be-all, end-all, and that my opinion cannot sway, cannot be changed, that I have all the facts. And many times you're assuming that based on misinformation. I don't have all the facts yet because I haven't been ahead 50 or 100 or 300 chapters. Anyway, again, getting off the beaten path, though. So these two, though, it was great because they sit down and they talk, right? And even though they're both kind of, flaring up their tempers here and there, they're still talking, right? So Franky goes and winds up, and Usopp's talking about how Franky first offers him a position as a minion of his. You can be basically like an underling of mine. And Usopp's like, no, what do you care? I'm not going to do that. First of all, I don't want to. Second of all, I'm still a pirate. And Franky's like, what? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to take this baby, and he's talking about the going merry, and he's like, I'm going to go, and I'll eventually wind up sailing back to the East Blue. I won't have made it around the entire world, but, it's all right. I'm going to go back to my hometown. And Franky's like, no, you're not going to do any of that. And he's like, first of all, it's too dangerous, and second of all, he goes and he says, I took a good look at your ship over here, and they're right. The Galley Company's assessment was absolutely right. There is nothing that can be done about this. And I like too how they wound up mentioning in the it was in the last chapter when they were talking about with the ship and the ship's assessment and everything else and whatnot. And it's when Kaku was fighting against Zoro, and Zoro kind of insinuates like maybe he's full of shit, because they've been lying undercover the whole time. And Kaku's like, well, maybe he was lying about the ship's assessment. And he's like, no, unfortunately that was the truth. That was a clear-cut assessment. So any little bit of glimmer of hope, a string that you might have been hanging on to for the going merry, it's been cut, it's gone, So unfortunately, we're going to have to, as heartfelt and sad as it is, we're going to have to let it go. But anyway, then Franky goes and he's like, yeah, so this thing's worthless and it's a scrap heap. It should be dismantled. I'll help you do it. And then the end of it's great because he says, I'll help you do it. And we get, here, I'll help you take the ship apart. And then we get Usopp, You'll what? No, I won't let you do that. Now, we know that Usopp is no match for Franky over here, but he did give Luffy a good run for his money. And, you know, regardless of Luffy holding back or anything else, if Luffy was holding back, good for him. He should have been. He clearly outmatched Usopp in every way, shape, and form, in strength and power and speed, and he knew that. So, you know, if you're a superhuman and you have this superhuman strength and you're going to go and fight somebody that is a friend of yours and has been a loyal friend of yours for a while, and then you do go 100% or 110% in what really should just be a battle. It really shouldn't be an all out knock 'em down, drag 'em out battle. And I know that you don't want to offend the other person's honor by holding back, but at the same time, if you're just that much stronger and superior to another person, you almost have to do that. You almost have to pull a couple of punches, I would think, if you have any type of heart, any type of morals, any type of values, you know. So nonetheless, though, it looks like Luffy and Franky may wind up having to go toe-to-toe. That's how the chapter ends off over here, and again, very, very good one. So, a lot of fun to just see this, and this took away from the action of really any of the Straw Hats, except for Usopp, who we haven't seen in a number of chapters. So it was still very well done, because although I want to know what's going on with them, at the same time, this was interesting, and it was nice to get a check-in on the Usopp and Franky situation, and then, of course, see CP9 be hot on their trail and you know, coming towards them. So, my chapter question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is what are your thoughts on what Franky told Usopp about the ship? Do you think that Usopp is finally at the point now where he's ready to accept, like Luffy did after some time had passed, that the going merry is done, that there is no more voyages to be had on this ship? Yes, we love you. Yes, we have great memories with you, but unfortunately, it's like giving up that childhood home or that first car, or even, you know, like a pet or something like that you have to eventually say, you know what, it's time. So let me know what your thoughts are, though, on that in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation. Remember to check me out on my other channel and follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.